Worry is the silent tyrant that keeps you chained to the illusion of control. It's the constant whisper in your mind that says, if you don't think about it, if you don't plan for it, something terrible will happen. But the more you try to control everything, the more you lose control of yourself. You start micromanaging life, people, even God. You try to negotiate peace by predicting disaster, yet every attempt to take hold of what's uncertain only tightens the rope of anxiety around your spirit. And that's the irony. Worry pretends to keep you safe, but in truth, it imprisons you. It disguises itself as responsibility when it's actually fear in a clever suit. Human beings crave certainty because it gives the illusion of safety. You want to know how things will turn out, what people will do, and when relief will come, but reality doesn't operate under your management. Life unfolds in mystery, not predictability. The moment you demand control over outcomes, you step out of faith and into frustration. Control is seductive. It tells you that if you just think harder, plan better, or work longer, you can force the world to obey your will. Yet every honest person knows the truth. No matter how perfectly you plan, there are forces beyond you that can shift everything in an instant. A single phone call, a single word, a single moment, and the entire structure of your certainty collapses. That's when you realize that you never had control, only the illusion of it. The rain falls, the markets shift, people leave, doors close, and still you exist, you survive. Why? Because something greater than your control sustains you. Worry assumes you are the final authority of your life. Faith acknowledges that you are not. And the moment you surrender that illusion, not as an act of weakness, but as a recognition of truth, you start to see how much lighter life becomes. You begin to realize that worry was never a strategy, it was a symptom of disbelief. You see, the illusion of control isn't just emotional, it's deeply spiritual. It's a form of pride that whispers, if I don't do it, it won't get done. But think about it. Who wakes you up in the morning? Who holds the atoms of your body together? Who ensures the sun rises, the air remains breathable, and your heart beats without your conscious permission? You're not even in control of your own heartbeat, and yet you want to control the outcomes of the universe. That's the absurdity of worry. It places a creature in the position of the Creator and expects peace to follow. No wonder we're restless. When you try to control what's beyond you, your soul becomes divided. One part of you is trying to plan tomorrow, while another is desperately trying to survive today. You cannot live like that for long without breaking. The human psyche wasn't designed to bear the weight of omniscience. The more you cling to control, the more fragmented you become. You lose your presence, your clarity, your joy, and that's because worry consumes the energy meant for creativity and purpose. Every minute you spend imagining disaster is a minute stolen from the possibility of progress. You might think that worry keeps you prepared, but it actually blinds you. When your mind is consumed by everything that could go wrong, you stop seeing what is going right. You become a prisoner to hypothetical futures instead of an active participant in the present. Worry keeps you stuck in preoccupation rather than preparation. Real preparation is grounded in wisdom. Worry is rooted in fear. Wisdom observes the facts and acts with confidence. Fear imagines disasters and acts with desperation. That's the difference. One is led by trust, the other by panic. And that brings us to something even deeper. The call to live by faith in the present moment. This is not some soft, poetic idea. It's a discipline. It's a confrontation with your own restless mind. To live in the present is to accept that right now is all you truly have, and that God's care exists only in the now. Anxiety thrives in the future because the future is a blank screen. It can hold anything your imagination paints on it. Faith, however, roots you in today and says, here is where provision is. When God said, give us this day our daily bread, He didn't say, give us next month's security. He was training your heart to depend on divine provision, one moment at a time. But you resist that. You want to see the full picture before you move. You want a guarantee before you trust. Yet that's not how growth works. The path only becomes visible when you start walking. That's why faith and worry cannot coexist. They're fueled by opposite assumptions. Worry assumes abandonment. Faith assumes care. Worry says, I'm alone in this. Faith says, I'm guided even when I don't understand. And that's where peace begins. Not in knowing the outcome, but in trusting the one who governs outcomes. Every morning you wake up into a new today, not by accident, but by design. The universe doesn't run on your anxiety. It runs on divine order. The same power that balances galaxies is the same power that keeps your life aligned, even when it feels chaotic. The fact that you woke up means God's purpose for you is still in motion. And your only job in this equation is to meet this day with trust, not tension. To believe that everything necessary for your growth, your strength, and your survival has already been arranged. You must learn to discipline your thoughts the way a craftsman disciplines his hands. When your mind begins to wander into worry, bring it back to now. Ask yourself, what is actually happening right now? Not what might happen, not what could happen, but what is. You'll find that most of the time right now you're okay. The storm you fear exists only in imagination. The tragedy you're dreading hasn't arrived. The conversation you're replaying is in the past. Right now, you have breath, you have life, you have choice. That's where power resides. In the present, not in the projection. People often say, I'll trust God when things make sense. But that's not trust, that's agreement. True trust is forged in uncertainty. It's built when your mind screams for control and you respond with surrender. It's in the silence between the question and the answer that your character is formed. And every time you choose to live by faith rather than fear, you strengthen the muscle of spiritual maturity. You begin to see that peace isn't the absence of trouble, it's the presence of trust. You might be wondering, but what if I let go and things go wrong? That's the voice of fear, not reason. Because letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you do what you can with what you have and leave the rest in hands wiser than yours. When you do that, something remarkable happens. You begin to experience freedom. The kind of freedom that comes when you realize you don't need to predict everything to be safe. You just need to be present. So today, instead of trying to control the waves, learn to trust the one who commands the sea. You can't stop the wind, but you can set your sail. You can't control outcomes, but you can choose your attitude. You can't guarantee tomorrow, but you can be faithful today. That's where the shift happens. From illusion to reality, from anxiety to awareness, from fear to faith. And once you begin to live that way, to live present, to live trusting, you start to notice something extraordinary. The small ways God has already been taking care of you. The moments of provision you overlooked, the conversations that came at the right time, the strength that arrived when you thought you had none left. All of it was there, hidden in the ordinary, waiting for your eyes to open. Because faith doesn't make life easier. It makes it clearer. It strips away the illusion of control and reveals what was true all along. That you were never abandoned, only distracted. And when you stop worrying long enough to see that, you begin to realize that life is not something to manage, it's something to trust one day at a time. Worry is a heavy thing, far heavier than most people realize. It's not just an emotional burden, it's a weight that presses down on your mind, your heart, even your body. It drains energy that could have been used for creation, growth, or gratitude. It disguises itself as care, as love, even as responsibility. But underneath all of that, it's fear. Fear that life won't unfold as you want it to. Fear that God might not come through this time. Fear that the universe will not hold you if you let go. And what a tragedy that is. To live each day as though the worst is inevitable when all evidence points to the fact that you've survived every worst moment so far. Worry, in its purest form, is self-sabotage disguised as caution. It convinces you that you are protecting yourself by imagining every possible failure. But you're really rehearsing defeat before the game has even begun. Think about it. Every thought that begins with what if takes you out of the present and into a future that doesn't yet exist. You're suffering from scenarios that haven't even happened, giving pain to days you haven't lived. You're investing emotional energy into an illusion. And when you do that long enough, your mind begins to believe that fear is wisdom, that anxiety is responsibility, that rest is recklessness. You see, worry doesn't solve problems, it multiplies them. It clouds judgment, weakens decision-making, and keeps you reactive instead of proactive. A worried mind cannot see clearly because worry distorts perception. It turns possibilities into threats and delays into disasters. You start reading life through the lens of fear rather than faith. And once that happens, even blessings begin to look suspicious. You start questioning good news, waiting for it to be taken away. You start expecting betrayal where there is loyalty, loss where there is growth. Worry trains you to see the world not as it is, but as your fear imagines it to be. But there's something even more dangerous about worry. It blinds you to divine provision. It blinds you to the fact that God's care is not theoretical. It's happening right now, quietly, invisibly, persistently. Worry keeps your eyes on what's missing, not on what's present. You could be surrounded by blessings, the roof over your head, the people who love you, the opportunities that are opening slowly, but you'll miss them if your mind is locked on what's not yet in your hands. That's how worry steals the joy of today. It tricks you into thinking you're waiting for something that's already here. And maybe that's the tragedy of modern life. We're more anxious than ever, not because life has become more dangerous, but because we've become more distracted. We've lost the discipline of noticing. We scroll through images of other people's lives, comparing, competing, craving, and in the process, we lose sight of what's actually unfolding in our own. Worry thrives in distraction. It feeds on your inattention to the present. It's in those moments when you're too busy to breathe, too hurried to pray, too preoccupied to notice the beauty of being alive, that worry grows roots. But there's a way out. It begins when you decide to see differently, when you start recognizing that the same power that sustains the stars also sustains your story. The same intelligence that keeps the earth spinning on its axis without your permission is also orchestrating your life with precision. And if the Creator can hold galaxies together, surely He can handle your tomorrow. The problem is not that God isn't working, it's that you're too worried to notice. Faith isn't blindness, it's clarity. It's the ability to see divine order where others see chaos. Faith doesn't deny the storm, it looks beyond it. It's the confidence that what's unseen is more real than what's visible. You don't need to understand how everything will work out. You only need to trust that it will. And that's hard, isn't it? Because we are creatures addicted to evidence. We want proof before peace, answers before action, signs before surrender. But faith requires a different posture. It demands courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward in spite of it. There's something remarkable about the nature of faith. It forces you to confront your limits. It reminds you that you're not God, that you don't see the whole picture, that you don't know what's best in the long run. And that's not an insult, it's liberation. Because once you stop trying to play God, you free yourself from the impossible task of controlling everything. You start participating with life rather than wrestling against it. You start trusting that what's unseen is not unsafe, it's simply unfinished. And that's the difference between the warrior and the believer. The warrior needs to see every step before taking one. The believer knows that light appears only as you walk. The warrior looks for certainty. The believer looks for purpose. The warrior asks, what if I fail? The believer asks, what can I learn if I do? You see, faith isn't the guarantee of comfort. It's the courage to continue. It's the deep conviction that the unseen hand guiding you is wiser than the visible circumstances around you. The most transformative moments of your life will not come from your plans, but from your surrender. When you look back, you'll notice that some of the best things that ever happened to you were never in your control. They arrived through detours, delays, and disappointments. The job you didn't get, the relationship that didn't last, the door that closed. At the time, it felt like rejection. But later you realized it was redirection. That's divine orchestration. Worry would have never led you there because worry is short-sighted. Faith, however, sees patterns. It sees meaning in the mess. It recognizes that the very things you feared would destroy you were actually shaping you into who you were meant to become. And so, faith demands a shift in focus. Stop staring at what you can't control and start noticing what's still working. Your breath, your heartbeat, the opportunities that keep showing up, the people who haven't given up on you. These are all signs of care, signs that God's hand hasn't withdrawn even when you can't feel it, but you'll only see them if you look through the eyes of faith, not fear. Worry closes your eyes to miracles. Faith opens them. You must understand that trust is not passive. It's not sitting still and hoping for the best. It's an active stance. A decision to keep moving, to keep believing, to keep doing your part, even when you can't see the full picture. Worry paralyzes you. Faith mobilizes you. Worry says, I can't act until I'm certain. Faith says, I'll act because I'm certain of who guides me. That's power. That's the shift from fear-based living to faith-based living. It's not easy. It never will be. Faith doesn't erase the tension. It redefines it. You will still feel fear. You will still encounter uncertainty. But faith transforms those moments from threats into opportunities for growth. It teaches you that every unanswered question, every delay, every unknown is a chance to practice trust. And the more you practice, the stronger that trust becomes. You begin to realize that peace is not found in the absence of problems, but in the presence of perspective. Worry may still knock on your door, but you won't invite it in because you'll know something now, something deeper. You'll know that there's an unseen order guiding your visible chaos. You'll know that God's timing is not your timing, but it's always right. You'll know that what feels uncertain to you is already settled in heaven. And once that awareness takes root, worry begins to lose its grip. Not because life becomes easy, but because you've learned to see through it, to see beyond it, to trust the unseen that holds it all together. Every morning when you wake up, you are witnessing a miracle that most people overlook. The renewal of divine provision. The world resets, the light returns, the air refreshes, and your heart continues to beat without your conscious permission. That alone should tell you something profound about the nature of God's care. It's not theoretical, it's rhythmic. It's continuous. You're not being sustained by accident. You're being carried by intention. Yet most people wake up and immediately rush into anxiety, as though the universe has forgotten them overnight. They check their phones before checking their peace. They measure the worth of their day by the number of problems awaiting them instead of the number of mercies that already surround them. And that's tragic because it blinds them to the reality that what they need today, they already have. When the Israelites wandered in the wilderness, manna fell from heaven each morning. But there was a rule. They couldn't store it for tomorrow. If they did, it spoiled. Why? Because God wasn't trying to feed their bodies alone. He was training their hearts. He was teaching them to trust daily provision. That's the essence of divine care. It's fresh every morning. You don't get tomorrow's strength today because you don't need it yet. You get today's strength for today's burdens. And that's the beauty of it. God doesn't overwhelm you with abundance. You're not ready to carry. He gives you exactly what sustains you now, but that's where human frustration arises. You want certainty. You want the full picture. You want assurance that the future is secure before you can rest in the present. Yet that's not how spiritual maturity is formed. Faith matures in the tension between need and provision. It grows when you realize that God's care is not a one-time deposit, it's a daily transaction. He gives as you go. And that requires humility. The humility to wake up each morning and admit that you're not self-sufficient, that your wisdom, your strength, your opportunities are not the results of your control, but of divine grace. The problem with worry is that it convinces you to hoard emotional resources for a future that hasn't arrived. You start living in anticipation of lack, not appreciation of abundance. But the spiritual reality is this: the moment you enter a new challenge, provision is already waiting for you there. The answer may not come before the question, but it will meet you at the right time. You've seen this before. Moments when you didn't know how things would work out, but somehow they did. That somehow is divine order, disguised as coincidence. The provision of God often hides behind a natural flow of events. It's not always thunder and light. Sometimes it's subtle. A timely conversation, an unexpected opportunity, the sudden strength to keep going when you thought you couldn't. That's provision, and that's what faith demands. Eyes to see the ordinary as extraordinary. When you believe that life is random, you live as a victim of circumstance. But when you recognize divine care, you start living as a participant in a sacred pattern. You start noticing the fingerprints of grace on the small moments, the food on your table, the laughter of someone who cares, the lesson hidden inside the hardship. You stop rushing past miracles disguised as mundane. Because the truth is, you can't receive what you refuse to notice. Gratitude is the language that reveals God's provision. Worry blinds you. Gratitude opens your eyes. But even deeper than provision is something far more powerful: transformation. You see, divine care doesn't just give you what you want, it shapes you into who you need to become. And sometimes that process is uncomfortable. Sometimes the absence of what you expected is the presence of what you truly need. God doesn't pamper you, He prepares you. He's not just handing out blessings, He's building character. That's why you can't always see provision in real time, because it often arrives disguised as struggle. This is where the next layer of truth unfolds. The act of turning worry into worship, that's not just a spiritual phrase, it's a psychological and emotional revolution. Every time worry rises, it presents you with a choice: either spiral deeper into fear or shift your focus toward gratitude, trust, and reverence. Worry is attention misplaced. It's faith pointed in the wrong direction. When you worry, you're still believing, just in the wrong outcome. You're exercising the same energy that could have been transformed into prayer, reflection, or purpose. And so the call to turn worry into worship is not about ignoring your fear. It's about redirecting it toward the one who can handle it. Worship isn't just singing or kneeling. It's a posture of alignment. It's the acknowledgement that you are not the center of the universe. And that's a relief, not a loss. It's the realization that your strength is finite, but His is infinite. That when your plans crumble, His purpose remains intact. Worship doesn't erase the problem, it reframes it. It pulls you out of the chaos of your own mind and anchors you in something larger, steadier, eternal. You might think that worship is something reserved for sacred spaces, but it's actually meant to be woven into your ordinary moments. When you choose calm over panic, that's worship. When you choose gratitude over complaint, that's worship. When you choose to breathe deeply and whisper, "I trust you," even when nothing makes sense, that's worship. That's when your worry begins to lose its authority, because you can't hold fear and reverence in the same breath. One always displaces the other. You must understand that worship isn't escapism, it's engagement. It's not pretending that life is easy, it's proclaiming that life has meaning. Even when it's hard, it doesn't erase your responsibility, it aligns it. Because the moment you shift your focus from your own inability to God's ability, you begin to see differently. You start noticing that the same situation that looked impossible yesterday now feels manageable. That's not coincidence. That's perspective changing reality. Worship rewires your perception. It teaches your heart to see through the fog of fear and to trust that light still exists beyond it. And as that happens, something inside you strengthens. You begin to develop what can only be called spiritual resilience. Worry weakens you because it drains your power into places you can't influence. Worship strengthens you because it roots your power in something unshakable. When your trust shifts from self to source, from control to surrender, you start to experience freedom. The kind of freedom that cannot be shaken by uncertainty. You stop measuring God's faithfulness by your feelings and start recognizing it through your endurance. That's the paradox of faith. That strength grows most in surrender, and peace comes most when you stop demanding it. The act of worship, repeated in the face of worry, builds something remarkable within you. A quiet confidence that can't be manufactured through willpower alone. It's the kind of confidence that whispers, even if everything falls apart, I'll still be held. And that's what transforms you. Because once you reach that level of trust, your external circumstances lose their power to define your inner state. You could be walking through chaos, yet remain centered. You could be surrounded by uncertainty, yet remain calm. You could face loss, yet still sense purpose. That's not denial. That's depth. That's the result of choosing worship over worry, trust over tension, presence over panic. When you begin to live like this, something shifts in the atmosphere around you. People notice. They see peace in your eyes where there should be fear. They see gratitude where there should be bitterness. They see composure where there should be collapse. And in that quiet strength, you become a reflection of divine care to others. Your life becomes evidence that peace isn't about circumstances. It's about connection. Because the truth is, God's care doesn't just sustain you, it expresses itself through you. The more you trust, the more you radiate stability, the more you surrender, the more you inspire others to do the same. You become living proof that divine provision isn't limited to personal comfort. It's meant to overflow into the world around you. Every time you replace worry with worship, you not only free yourself, you contribute to the collective healing of others. You remind them that faith is not naive, it's courageous, it's the strength to face uncertainty with the conviction that love is still governing all things.